having in less than a week as Bitcoin approaches this critical level.
Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let.
Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, where the mornings seem to get early and earlier over here in Helsinki, Finland. It's heating up, baby. It's been like bright and sunny since 4 a.m. and it's actually a little bit nerve-wracking. Anyways, there's plenty to talk about today with good old price action following up from yesterday's analysis. Bitcoin still hanging in the critical regions there, which is going to very likely initiate that next set of movements. And of course, we're going to be going over probabilities with that as well, as they are looking very much ripe for the taking. And then also, I will very likely be on Twitch later today, as I got some pretty good news from the doctor. Still not fully there, but good enough for some Twitch action and very likely for the days to come as well. So very much looking forward to that. In the meantime, before we actually get into the analysis, I do want to give a massive shout out to the channel Let's Talk Crypto. You probably even know him if you're familiar with this community. He goes under the name Wes in the Discord community. He interviewed actually another guy from the Discord community, both of them in the program. The guy that he Discord is, you probably know him under the name Pumpkin Party or Dampkin Party or some sort of party that involves pumpkin type S stuff, and they talk about, you know, kind of his journey from going from you know, the learning phase to the let's do it as professional phase. This guy is a great example of sort of the journey, in my opinion, because he came in like pretty much one of the first people when I started this channel. And he was one of the first people to join the program as well. And I remember him very specifically because we talked a shit ton, but more importantly, because he made it very clear what his goal was. Says, Krown, I'm in a job that I don't really care all that much about. I think it was something to do with like banking or something like that. And my goal is to be able to trade on my own and be self-sufficient. I'm like, okay, that's a very lofty goal. It's also a very noble goal. And you know what? I don't see no reason why you wouldn't be able to do it. However, it's going to require a lot of work. He basically said, I'm up to the work. And he was one of the guys who was in the fucking Discord day in, day out, see him all the time there, you know, putting the time in. And he went from basically, I guess, well, not where he wanted to be when he started off. I can't really speak before that. And then within 6 months, this guy was already getting it pretty damn fast. And within a year, he had set a goal. And I think this is really important to talk about, because this just, I hope that this can be, you know, seen as, you know, the light or something inspiring for anyone on the journey out there. But he basically said, Krown, my goal is I want to be done with, I want to quit this job in a year. I think he quit it in like less than a year. I remember specifically because he made the announcement in the Discord. Remember, everyone was like really happy about it. And he's been doing it ever since, I think, for like the last, it must be almost 2 years now, which is fucking awesome, man. So definitely go check that out, because I think it really helps to relate to people who are trying to do the same sorts of things. And this is a guy who I can confirm he's done it. So that's awesome, man. And also go check out Wes's channel as well, because he's just an awesome guy. Anyways, looking at the Krown trading application right here, we do see that open interest is once again of interest, suggesting that we probably are going to be seeing that move sooner rather than later. We're maintaining above the $700 million mark on the open interest, and this is really going to confirm the next sort of phase of Bitcoin. So still keeping it in the back of our mind's eye, but we are starting to see it really follow through alongside with price action, which is a really good thing. On top of that, Bitcoin dominance still steadily moving to the upside. I'm more or less bullish on that, as I have been for the last month and a half. We're starting to finally see it move, and I do think that it will be heading up to the $70, or not $70, but 70% plus mark, which means that, you know, most alts versus Satoshis are not going to be doing all that well. Alts versus a dollar, however, is a different story depending upon how Bitcoin spot price action does. Now, looking at the crypto fear and greed index, taking up a little bit from yesterday to today, we certainly do see a change in behavior there, you know, consistently below the 20s, now consistently in the 40s range, but still, you know, more on the side of the bulls there. As we've been saying, you know, it was the one thing that should have been an absolute gleaming light to me, you know, about a month ago, to be bullish, which I kind of discounted. However, looking at it right now, I mean, Bitcoin's more than doubled off the lows, and the market's still technically fearful, although I'd say it's more neutral than anything at this price point. So let's go over to the price action analysis charts. And so we got here. I want to follow up from yesterday's analysis. We did say that essentially as long as Bitcoin maintains this higher low, especially on like a 12-hour, even on the lower term time frame, it's about the same. I think it's about the same area on the 4-hour, about 8,700. More or less, I'm looking at this as a nice bullish continuation formation, which is actually not as obvious on spot price action as it is on CMEs. But we will start off with spot price action right here. So as you can see, it's still more or less in an uptrend. I know a lot of people are looking at this as a potential descending triangle as well. Yes, it still can work out like that. However, I would say that you're likely going to let go of that view. And the reason why I don't think that's a main look on this is one, trend, and then two, CMEs. CMEs are obviously not a descending triangle as it stands. It looks a lot more like a reaccumulation formation, aka in this case an ascending triangle. So I would say that the resolution is statistically more likely to go to the upside. However, we will look at probabilities a little bit later. But for right now, I do want to keep the focus on the lower term timeframes because at the end of the day, I just trade from range to range, especially in at critical points like this, because the ranges are big enough and there's just enough meat on the bones to make all sorts of very short-term trades, which are actually quite nice. Anyways, so looking at this right here, the ranges for the short term are still the same as the last couple days. Below this prior local low right here, 8,600, I'm looking for another $600, $700 move to the downside to tap around 7,900-ish region, or at the very least low 8,000. So that's almost a 10% move at that price point. Pretty fucking good. But what I think is a little bit more likely right here, however, I'd still wait for confirmation, is any sort of a 4-hour total closure above this last little local high right here, or even just a tick above, which is currently 9,200. So any sort of a move above there, although I really would like to see like a 2-hour closure above 9,150. Either one of them probably gets the job done, and I'd look for an extension all the way up here to our next major blue box territory, which correlates with the macro. This area being about 9,700-ish region, and of course to the downside, same sort of implications. If Bitcoin were to come down to 78 to 7,900-ish region, that is where the macro once again comes into question. As if we do break that, I would be looking for a big bad move, likely down to 6,000 and perhaps even beyond. But for right now, I'm not really looking for that to happen. I do think that the upside here is more likely. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the former trend always. This. It's also a drawback of my game. But that's the way that I found a trade, and over time keeps me safe more often than red dildos me or green dildos me, depending upon which sort of side of the trade I'm on. Anyways, looking at lower term time frame momentum oscillators here, what stands out is a 4-hour RSI to me, as it is still, to me, this is a bullish reset as we come down to the neutral zone, hang around there and put in some time while also maintaining the uptrend on price action. However, looking at momentum oscillators like Stokes, we do see that this is actually going to be breaking the trend line too, so I do like that. Oh, I guess I still have it in here from yesterday. So wait, what the fuck do you just do? Hold on. There we go. I'm going to be breaking the trend line from yesterday. I guess I don't need that one right there because I already have it in. And to me, that's likely to lead us up into the bullish control zone, or maintaining the bullish control zone. But again, at the end of the day, the most important thing to me is breaking this level right here for continuation, of course. And what's up, John Ramos, good to meet you, man. Welcome to the cave, and pleasure to have you here. Looking at the 3-hour, it's more or less the same. It looks like 3-hour momentum oscillators up and at them as well, breaking that same sort of proverbial trend line. Actually, a little bit more obvious on this one too, as it looks like it's kind of already retested, and the bottom support trend line a little bit more obvious as well. Now, I don't think that formations work on Stoke reads, but I do think that trend lines work. However, on RSI reads, I do believe that formations work. In fact, I think that they work better than they do on price action. Looking at the 2-hour, or bi-hourly as some people say, we do see that it's headed up as well, so I do like that. An hourly kind of flip-flopping around. So what is that essentially telling us over the period of time is that Bitcoin can maintain, especially above, hold on, let me go back to the 4-hour. Bitcoin can maintain, especially above about 8,900 on a 4-hour total closing basis. The probabilities are still on the upside, as that is our last kind of local low, local low right here from that time frame at 8850-ish region. So a little bit above there would be good. And again, at the end of the day, just trend right here, we are seeing 4-hour historical volatility percentage contract relatively orderly, which does imply a resolution rather soon, probably in the next day of price action, it depends what time zone that you're in, of course, but for myself, being in the Eastern European time zone, That's probably going to be like late at night or tonight for those of you in the Western Hemisphere. So, somewhere around there, it becomes extremely likely to break out. I think even before then, it's probably likely as well. Now, there is one competing narrative with that. I do see that the 4-hour jewel is potentially lining up for a hodl or a short signal. But if you do have access to the jewel, I would not look at this as like a signal in and of itself. If you see this start to turn down rather aggressively on the next 2 to 3 ticks, then yes, it likely does play out, and we will come down and probably play out something more resembling a descending triangle, and ultimately head back down to like 7,900 or something like that. Again, I'd need to see fully and formally 8650 broken on a 4-hour total closure, or a wick below our last our last local low, which is coming in from 3rd of May at 8527 even on Mexico. So whichever one of those happens first, I would look at it as as a good indication that we are going to be heading further south about 10%. But until then, I do remain with my overall reservations that Bitcoin probably tests some upside here alongside the strength in the traditional markets as it is right now. Historical volatility percentile on the hourly also relatively low after contracting quite a bit. So I do think that we're kind of set. We're gearing up for a move a little bit later today. I do think maybe perhaps sometime around that the traditional markets open at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Anyways, moving on into the medium term timeframes. Or sorry, actually before we do that, let's look at the reverse Stowe cross. For the hourly showing, it maintains to the upside above 9,000 on the next closure, which is coming in 6 minutes and 13 seconds. So we'll actually be able to see this one together, very likely, assuming that I just ramble on a little bit longer. For the 2-hour, 8,900, and it's closing at the same time, so it just needs to maintain about $100 higher than the hourly, or sorry, lower than the hourly. The 3-hourly, the tri-hourly, 8,960. So they're all kind of overlaid in this region between 8,900 and 9,000, and the 4-hour showing 8,900 as well. So essentially, as long as Bitcoin remains above 8,900 on the lower term time frame closing basis, I do remain more immediately bullish, as momentum is still kind of aimed in that direction. Now, taking this over to CMEs, I do believe that you can make a lot. Do I want to say that about CMEs or not? We can see the same thing on spot markets right here. The measured move from this proverbial ascending triangle would still be the same from what we were postulating the couple days prior, all the way up to about 9,700. That area is again relevant from a macro perspective because that is going to be the blue box of death and destruction from our last major drop down from the late February breakdown, all the way from about 10,000 down to 4,000 essentially. Then also this major rejection that you saw back on over in the fake out in late October of 2019. One of the China news, I think I was on I was riding an airplane during that time as well. But again, this area right here, historically relevant. Also the 618 Fibonacci retracement from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of this past cycle right here. And also meeting up with the measure move off that proverbial ascending triangle that we were just looking at. So I like all of those things matching up for a pushback if we were to approach that region at the very least on the lower term time frames. Could it turn into another macro reversal? Perhaps yes. Also, the opposite of that of that logic also does apply, in the sense that if we do break that area, then we have something new going on. I'd look for a quick move to 10,500 and very likely beyond after that. Realistically, that's when we get to approach the super macro area at around 11,500, but I'll leave that for the Sunday long-term analysis video, but I'll kind of spoil the surprise right here. Any sort of a move back above this 11,500 area that's provided so many rejections in the past history of Bitcoin is going to be astronomically interesting, we'll put it that way. That's when I really start to talk about 16,000, then 20,000 once again. I mean, this is institutional order flow dynamics at its best. Big breakdown right here, 50% rejection, double top right here, just getting front ran. Perfect textbook type shit. And then again, twice in July and August of 2019, big wicks above there, people getting their fills and then shoving price action back down. So if Bitcoin were to get back above that region, it would be a big deal. Of course, looking at it from a volume profile perspective, even above like 10,500 right here, this last spike high is likely to produce some pretty monumental changes. However, again, still above 11.5 is like the most obvious area, I suppose. So all these areas kind of coincided with each other, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself as I don't want to talk too much about long-term analysis. I'll save that for the long-term analysis playlist, which is there for you at your viewing pleasure and still relevant as of this moment in time. And if we look at the volume profile from from the lower term time frame perspective, pulling it back out to this area right here, we do see that there is interest within this region as well. So that is a good inflection point on the market, as far as the the longer and even macro picture goes. Also on top of that, I keep on saying I wouldn't get into long-term price action, but god damn it, man, might as well do it right now, or at least a little bit more. Monthly as well, any sort of move back above this last prior spike high at 10.5, it's going to be continuation. Momentum oscillator is going to be forced back up. It's going to look good. All right, so cool. Back on into Bitcoin price action. Let's go to the medium-term time frames. Of course, to remind myself, we do have the golden cross on the 12-hour, which does hold historically significant weight. We can take off everything except for a few moving averages and do a little bit more of a deep dive into them. But looking at it right here, the 55 and the 200, getting the bullish cross or getting the golden cross on that one historically has been pretty damn good to Bitcoin. Now, is it the best timer of an entry? Fuck no, it's not. In fact, all the entries that we do have from this actually do inevitably test at the very least the 55 before blasting off. In this case right here, we do see it go all the way from about 9,000 down to 8,000 before a nice $2,500 move up. To the upside. In playing that out. To the downside, works in kind of a similar fashion in the sense that it's not the greatest timer, but it is a great momentum getter. Same thing in 2019 as well, early 2019. Bitcoin gets a big lift off right here, spends some time consolidating, tests 55, and then another more than 2x to the upside. And then, of course, we can go back to 2016 as well over here. Can barely even see it now, but same sort of thing. I am still hesitant to think that, I am still kind of the thought that while I am kind of bullish on Bitcoin in the medium and probably even longer term now, especially looking at traditional markets, I do think that we're going to either have a big come down from where we are right now, or at that next level that we spoke about right here at the 97 to 9800-ish region. And we'll probably come back down and test one of the major movement averages, at the very least the 21 on this time frame, and probably the 55, wherever that ends up being. And as you can imagine, the longer that Bitcoin price action essentially remains above about 8,000 at this point, that will naturally climb higher and higher alongside price action, because it's a moving average. That's how they fucking work. And more importantly, we're seeing divergence between the 55 and the 200, showing that the cross is actually gaining strength. Still a little bit early to really be calling it, but overall fine. Not only that, but we can briefly talk about this as well. I really don't want to get too deep into this here, but we can talk about the good old hash ribbons, of which, we spoke about this about a week ago as one of the more bullish things as well. We did get the buy signal on it, which was confirmed on the 23rd or 24th of April. We are on the right time frame right now. And that to me is historically relevant for the long term. So again, setting in the biases for, long-term bullish here, as we do see this, this last buy signal precipitating this massive move for about $4,000. Before that, we had this massive buy signal basically calling the last prior low, and a few before that in 20, all the way from 2014 all the way back to the Genesis, essentially doing the same thing. So to me, that is a big deal for the long term. Again, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have a nice downside move in between there, but it does set in the long term bias that the low is in, or very, 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 very likely. And of course, this one over here wasn't necessarily right, but we're very likely to move up and test some higher levels before testing the next major low in a sense. On top of that, daily RSI is showing what? It's basically showing a nice consolidation. Looks like a nice little triangle formulating right there. And let's see, it's a little bit small to be fair. We do see daily Stokes actually look like they want to cross back up to the upside, and they will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin price action maintains the 8,900 level. So now you're seeing a meeting up between the lower term time frames and the higher term time frames, being that 8,900-ish level. So as long as Bitcoin maintains above there, my main disposition is bullish here, and very likely to test up towards that 9,700 to 9,800-ish level, assuming that 92 gets broken or 9150 gets broken on a closure. That would look good to me. 12-hour going to be more or less the same, although it aligns more with my idea of continuation here. If we do see a 12-hour dildo closure close above 9150, that will turn momentum oscillators back up here, and very likely that's our resolution for that next move to the upside. Another from that price point, $600-700 move, which at a $9,000 number, that's probably 7-8, maybe even 7 to 8%, I'd imagine. So very, very tradable, and that next macro area can really lead into multi-$1,000 moves, of which, remember, it's a 12-hour historical volatility percentile that was really making me think that we were going to get a big move last week. Again, not implying direction, but is implying big movements. And what do you know? After 2 months of steadily contracting, well, we get a $1,500 move to the upside almost immediately. Now consolidating on a first sort of flag formation. And realistically, historically speaking, anytime that we've had 2 months long of consolidation on this, or contraction, if you want to call it that, well, that leads into big phased shifts. We do see that this phase right in over here for 3 months led us all the way from about 14,000 down to 6,000, maybe even say 4,000 over here if you're patient. This one over here leading for a nice move down as well. Of course, the one before that coming in on the last major dump from November in 2018 to the major lows set in December 2018 at 3,100 before a big massive reversal. These do typically call inflection points on the market. So I really like the combination of using these tools together, because I do believe that it really adds onto the efficacy that it's really time to be looking at this market in very likely a different way. I'd like to see a few more confirmations on top of this, but so far so good, it looks like. And you know what? I'll actually be looking at the expected moves chart here earlier today, just because I want to see if I can keep these videos a little bit on the shorter side. So let's see, we'll call it 91.50 the upside. Very likely begets continuation up to 97. We'll call it 97. I really like to see a 12-hour total closure above there. That would be a lot more confidence inducing. Does a 4-hour get it? Probably does. Does a wick above 9,200 get it? Probably does, but I do err on the side of caution during these sorts of trades. Of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but that's just the way that I think, I suppose. Anyways, we can go over here, and we actually already still have 9,200 in. On the next daily total closure, which is obviously very far away, a little bit less than 18 hours right now from right now, we do see that the probability of it is about 36% versus the downside probability, which is 8,600, which is actually... Yeah, that actually is directly where I want it, right at the last local low. So these both correlate with the resolution of the short-term range, which is actually the short-term range right now is going to lead into a medium-term move at the very least, most likely. And I consider that $500 plus to both sides, and realistically to the downside, like 700, 800 to the upside, 600, 700-ish region. So the upside actually still more probable here from from an expected moves. From a historical volatility percentile perspective. So looking at that, still odds favored in the upside, of course. Let's see what's a more obvious area, or sorry, maybe let's look at the macro area now. I'm going to say that it's 9,800 just to be a little bit more conservative to the downside, which would likely beget continuation for another $2,000 move to about 6,000. I'd be looking at 7,900, although that would probably take a long time for it to really transpire, yeah, is the word that I'm looking for. But we'll look at it right there, and this is significantly lower. So above target probability for 9,800. This again correlating with the macro area, that's 6.5%, or a little bit under that. Below target probability, very unlikely today, less than 0.5% actually. And then we can also go look at, do we want to look at something that's even more proximal? No, I think that really gets it right there. Maybe for like the super conservative people, no, it's just not relevant. It looks bullish. I'm trying to represent both sides here, but it looks bullish. 2 days looking damn good as well. We are not going to be closing one tonight. We closed one yesterday night, but this was a damn good closure. To me, it already tested the candle body, and we're getting ready to move up probably towards 10,000. All right, I said it. God damn it, man. We do see 2-day Stokes are actually looking like they do want to cross down. So I do want to, I want to kind of balance that out a little bit. I want to remain from the perspective of a trader, not a fucking moon boy or hodler here. But above 9,300. Looking good for continuing momentum at the very least to low 5 digits, very likely. On top of that, we do see that the 2-day RSI is working its way into the bullish control zone for the first time in a long time. However, that's usually the time that you do get a nice pushback. So that's also another point in the skepticism side, I suppose, as well. But more importantly than anything, we see what is going to be probably going to be very criticized for, but this is incredibly important if you understand how these things work. Okay, so first and foremost, we do see, well, maybe not foremost, but first and very important, we do see that the 200 symbol, this white moving average right here, generally gets the right phase in Bitcoin. When we're above it, generally good. When we're below it, generally bad. As you can see, it's not perfect, nothing is, but slope plus price action's interaction with that moving average generally gets it pretty damn well. Whenever it has a negative slope and price actions below, bad. Whenever it has a positive slope and price actions above, good. Same thing over here, bad, good. And never actually even went negative here, to be fair. It maintained a positive slope even throughout that whole dump from about 10,000 down to 4,000. Now, what's even more important is we're going to have basically a fake out confirmation for the 2-day dildo death cross into a golden cross, which is typically very, very powerful. Anytime that you get something like this where it's hinted at or you even get a death cross, and this works both ways, and then you don't see any fall through on price action, and then price action maintains back above, especially the 200 exponential moving average, and then crosses to the other side. In this case, a golden cross. It's fucking bullish, is what it is. So fair enough. Just the more sophisticated bots and algos of this market, baiting the less sophisticated bots and algos into this market into bad positions here, mediated by the 200 simple slope, which has maintained to the upside the whole way through, which I should have caught. I did not, and that was very bad of me. And well, I'll have to live with that decision. However, at the end of the day, that's what being as a trader is, to be able to change your mind. So analysts out there are going to be pissed off. Traders out there, well, traders trade. Anyways, so what does that mean for the current price action? That's probably, the second that we get an actual confirmation of a bullish cross the upside here is the second that I really start to look for another move into the 5 digits and probably beyond over time. But we'll get to that bridge when we cross it, or we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, or we will be a bridge of no. You know what I'm trying to say, man. And if you've been here long enough, you already know I'm going to fuck up my words all the goddamn time. Anyways, looking at the 3-day, looks like continuation to me as well. Momentum oscillator is probably gonna look for a pushback here soonish, but overall, I think continuation. I think another continuation drive first before anything else. Looking at the weekly was also rather interesting because we did see, we are going to see a confirmation of the 21 crossing the upside of the 55 right here, very likely this week, confirmed. And with any sort of a close here or higher, and that should be good enough for us to test the prior high of about 10,100-ish region, 10,200-ish region. So, things are shaping up rather well here. Weekly momentum oscillators, if I can remind myself, are looking good, pointing in the right direction, pointing true north. However, we are gonna potentially resolve this formation right here. So this is also another reason why I do think that it's appropriate to be caution in this region, because we are meeting up a trend line that has been alive for almost a year now, going all the way back to June of 2019. We're in the month of May now of 2020. This formation has been holding rather well. Now it is a falling wedge, which I put a shit ton more weight on in cryptocurrency, only on RSI though, not on fucking price action. And this one's looking like it's baking in there. But I do feel like it could be very likely that we do get a pushback on this region, come back down, test around the neutral zone, which, that's interesting. That's lining up pretty damn well with the exponential on it. Probably reaccumulate there and then get ready for an actual move. So I do think that is a little bit more trustworthy. So it would say, yes, things are looking good here, but wait a little bit because well, it could still take a few weeks. Looking at the weekly jewel, it's giving you a hodl your long signal here, it looks like, although it's not the most obvious one and not the most efficacious one I've found in my experience. The weekly for spot price action, a little bit better for a hodl your long signal, although again, it's just I really don't like those signals in general. Okay, cool. Let's go check out traditional markets. We can go check out Nas futures to start off with. Looking damn good right here. I mean, this, I was saying that this week was likely going to be a down week. We did test that downside, and we did hit the level that we were speaking about yesterday, right down towards that 88, or sorry, this level down here, down towards 8,800. But the response has been phenomenal, and I do think that this is getting ready for a big move to the upside. I'm bullish on this. It's a fucking uptrend, man. It's a fucking uptrend, and I think that this one's going to be reaching for 9,400-ish region. Like I've been saying for the last like month and a half now, I do think that the lows are in for traditional markets. That does not mean that I don't think that there's going to be another big down, but I think it's going to be moving up first before it moves down. So very likely we reach for this level first, and then get ready for a big pullback, and then we'll see where we're at from that perspective. But for right now, this is very resilient, strong, and I don't really have any real reason to be bearish on that. Same thing with E-mini futures for SPY. it's more or less the same thing. This one does seem more under pressure, though, I should say. Again, we hit the level that we were looking for, right around 2780. Now I do think that it's going to probably pop back up towards 2950-ish region, and if we take out the prior high at basically just a few bucks higher than that, 296, it looks like, I'd be looking for continuation to the last prior high, about 310, maybe 313-ish region, as I've been saying. Again, same thing here. I do think that the low is in. I do think that there's going to be a big pullback after hitting one of these major areas, whether it's the last prior high right here or this area right here. Maybe even it travels up all the way to like 330 before it plays that out. People are going to be like the shorts who think that they're geniuses right now. They're going to be getting absolutely fucking cream pied, I think. This is not bearish. And if we do come back down, could you say that's bearish if we come down? I look at bearish as or bullish for that matter, as related to the long-term trend. In this case, do I think, I just don't really have any real reason to be bearish on this as long as it's above about 245 region down here, this last little prior low. And I do think that it could actually reach down to that region, but I'd still take it one level at a time. I don't really have any real reason to be bearish, even on the short-term time frames, as long as we're above this last prior low right here at about 280-ish region, which, we could very easily test back down there again and maybe even put another higher low. But until we actually take that area out, it's still an uptrend on basically all time frames, up to a daily. Sorry, including a daily, but not a weekly, technically speaking, right now. Of course, for perspective, monthly did have a rather good close, as you can see, and I do think that it's getting ready for a move above 300, most likely. What else do I want to say? And also just kind of on the topic of lows being put in here, anytime that we flash red on historical volatility percentile, it's been a major macro low going all the way back, as you can see right here. Maybe it's better to be looking at SPY. For something like this, but you can see this is the dot-com boom right here, the dot-com bubble bursting. This was 2008, 2009, and this is more recently, which we can remain in the red zone for a little bit of time, but it's telling you that extremes are near. And if this thing for whatever it did set in a new low, I would be looking maybe somewhere around like 190-ish region. I don't think that it'd have much lower to go than that. Now this could be famous last words. Maybe I'm just going to be the biggest fucking moron for stating something like that. However, the one big counterpoint to what I'm saying is the monthly jewel sell signal on this, which actually looks pretty good. So we'll see how this month kind of moves forward. But if we do see hesitation within this region and we do close like below 290, let's call it, at end of month, which we have pretty much a full month ahead of us, minus maybe 1 week, I maybe then I could get bearish, but for right now, I think you go with the current momentum. Anyways, or maybe not you, but just speaking, as this is not financial advice, SEC. I'm not a financial advisor, to state it very clearly. Anyways, back on a Bitcoin here. Same range essentially as yesterday. It's just looking like it's more ready now. I do think that the upside's more likely here. I'd want to see at the very least a 2-hour total closure above 9150, or a wick above 9200. Both of those probably do get it. For the more conservative traders out there, 12-hour above 9150, I believe it was, and I would be looking for that continuation up to the next major level, 97 to 9800 region. To the by the same token, to the downside, if we do see Bitcoin break back down below 8600, that would be a damn good indication we're going to see another 10% move to the downside here. And also meet up with our long-term trend line coming in from the March 13th lows, by the way. But as you can see, that's pretty far away for right now, so it's not really as interesting to talk about. And for the very short term, like the super fucking short term, like the crack trader time frames, or maybe not so much crack trader time frames, but if we do start to head back down below, let's call it 8900, even close like a 2-hour below 8900, then yes, I do think that we'll set in another low, or at least try to bounce off of 8600 once again. And then this is going to look a lot more bearish for the short and medium term. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for right now. I think this is going to be a good time to shut off this video. I'm going to go likely to the gym, and then perhaps Twitch time after that. So take care, and until next time.